If you're a realtor who's tired of chasing low quality buyer leads, this video is going to flip the script for you because I'm going to show you exactly how to convert buyer leads into high quality seller clients using a playbook that's simple, proven, and 100% free to run. This is the same strategy I personally use to get clients without spending a dollar on ads or leads. And it's the same playbook that hundreds of agents are using right now to land listings of their own, like Doug in California. He used this exact process and landed a $1.6 million listing his very first month trying it. Or take Vince in Kentucky. He converted a buyer lead into a listing client in under 6 days using this method. I'm Chris Jones, founder of Guerilla Realty, and I'm going to give you the full playbook, all the tools, scripts, and swipe files you need to run this yourself. And there's no course, no pitch, there's no high-ticket coaching offer coming at the end of this video. If you want the free in-depth training, all you have to do is like this video, share it with the friend who could use it, and then comment shared below, and I'll send you a private link to the full training. Here's what we're going to walk through in this video step by step. Lesson 1, the #1 best source for seller leads. You'll learn where the most motivated sellers are hiding and why most agents overlook them completely. Then lesson 2, how to actually convert buyer leads into sellers. I'll show you a simple shift that turns just looking buyers into real listing opportunities without being pushy or salesy. And finally, lesson 3, setting the listing appointment. You'll get the exact script and follow-up system I use to land the appointment and win the listing every time. All right, let's dive into lesson #1, the #1 best source for seller leads. And I'm afraid we already gave away the lead. The best source for seller leads is, of course, buyer leads. But before we get into the specifics of that, I want to go all the way back to the beginning and show you how we arrived at that conclusion. And I want to make sure that you come with us and arrive at the same conclusion. So in order to do that, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to walk you through our best source for seller leads and how we arrived at that. So my brother Levi and I, we're the founders of Guerilla Realty, and we have our own real estate business in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And we have tested just about every source for seller leads that you can imagine, including cold calling, FSBOs, expireds, divorce, probate, tired landlords, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we've done all the different cold calling where you buy a lead source like FSBOs, expire. Well, hopefully you're not buying FSBOs since you can use our free app FSBonanza to get all the FSBOs, but you buy the list of expireds, divorce, probate, tired landlords, et cetera. And then you cold call through them. And just to be clear, some of these can actually land you quality listing leads. So you can actually convert leads from any of these sources. They're not bad. But we tested them and we always found that there was a relatively low ROI on our efforts. And we also found that none of them were scalable, right? So if you were cold calling for 4 hours a day on these things and you wanted to double your business one day, right? Grow a team, et cetera, you would have to cold call for 8 hours a day. And that just doesn't work. And so these are not scalable. Then there was direct mail. And this is one of those things that I found can be very effective. In fact, one of my friends, James Hoff, has built an incredibly successful business on direct mail. But personally, it was always relatively low ROI, or it was just hit or miss. Sometimes it would hit and we'd generate a bunch of listings and then we'd go 10 months without getting a single sniff. So we've tested direct mail. We've also tested, of course, buying leads from Zillow, Realtor.com, Opcity. These I found were the absolute lowest ROI. They had the highest upfront expense, so the largest risk. And when it was all said and done and the dust cleared, we did actually close business from buying these leads, but it wasn't enough to justify the cost. So this had the worst ROI of everything we tested. We've even done Facebook ads. And the problem with Facebook ads, which are relatively inexpensive, you can generate a bunch of leads at about $3 to $5 a lead. The problem, though, is that the typical conversion rate is 1 out of over 240 leads. And we got that data because one of the largest data aggregators in the world lost an incredible employee to us. And he was able to bring that data over to us. And it explained why none of our Facebook ad campaigns ever really ROI'd. So really inexpensive, but you're just spinning wheels and calling people all day, every day. And none of them really go anywhere. And that's probably been your experience too. Drop a comment if it has. And then we finally tested one more idea. that really turned things around for us. And I'm going to cover that in the next slide. But here's what we found. The best source for seller leads, unlike every other lead source that we had tested, had no competition. So obviously when we were doing the cold calling thing, the FSBOs, expireds, etc., every time we called one of those leads, because every other realtor was buying those leads as well, what was the first thing out of their mouth? Oh, you're like the 7th realtor who called me today. Yeah, exactly. Right. So with this lead source, no competition. Then we discovered we're no longer cold calling for 4+ hours a day, which means our business is finally scalable. We were spending more like 3 20 to 30 minute call sessions per week, and that is infinitely scalable, right? Then we found that there was an unending supply. So unlike all the lead sources where we were, stuck with whatever number of leads Zillow deigned to send to us, or we were stuck with the list of leads that we had bought from, My Plus Leads or whatever. Instead, now we had an unending supply where when we ran out of the leads that we had, we could go and generate more. And then they actually wanted to talk to us. So I don't know if you've ever experienced where you called up a lead and they were just glad that you called. And for most realtors, I feel like it's a rare experience, and it used to be a rare experience for us. But now that we're calling this lead source, I feel like almost every call that we have ends with somebody telling me, oh my gosh, Chris, I'm so glad that you called. And just from an emotional standpoint, it really changes everything so that you look forward to your call sessions rather than dreading them. And this is maybe most important, is it's free. So you can actually generate these leads 100% free and at an unlimited supply. So what is the best source for seller leads? Well, I already gave it away. It is in fact buyer leads. And just to prove it to you, I'm going to give you a couple of different breakdowns. I'm going to give you a pie chart, and then I'm going to give you a calculator that you can use on your own. This is a free download, but the pie chart, and this data comes from NAR 2024, so that every year they do a profile of home buyers and sellers. This is from the most recent one, and this pie chart represents all the buyers in your market. So, no matter how slow things have gotten where you live, there are still a truckload of buyers in your market. This pie chart represents all of them. And so we've broken them down into 3 segments. Segment number 1, the red slice of the pie, 25% of all the buyers in your market are first-time home buyers. And so by definition, first time they're buying a home, they don't own a home, so they couldn't be selling a home. So we're just going to ignore this slice of the pie. Then we're going to look at the second segment, the yellow slice, which is 21% of all the buyers in your market. These are non-primary purchases. So typically, these are a mix of investors who are adding to their portfolio, fix and flip, fix and hold, rental, and a small percentage of them are actually vacation home owners. And so these are non-primary purchases, which means that when they buy this property that they're shopping for, they are not going to be getting rid of their principal residence. But what it leaves is the third segment, this giant blue slice of the pie that's everybody else, that when they buy their new home, they absolutely are going to be selling their principal residence. It's just a matter of the order in which they do it. And so that means that 54% of all the buyers in your market today are going to be selling a home statistically in the next 60 to 90 days. So what if you could get a hold of names and phone numbers of all of these people and just call them up and offer them something that they would take you up on, and you could set an appointment? That's what I'm going to walk through in this video. So let me flip back to the main screen, and then I'm going to give you a calculator to calculate how many leads you actually need to begin with, buyer leads, in order to get the appropriate number of seller leads for yourself. And so we actually have an incredible free resource. It's a calculator that we built for you that you can find in our Nerd Sheets app. So let me share my screen once more. And what you're looking at is Nerd Sheets. And I'm actually going to log out. You can find this at nerdsheets.com, free app. And you can either create an account if you don't already have a free Guerilla Realty account, or if you do, you can just sign in. And I already have a free Guerilla Realty account, so I'm going to sign in here. Select my existing account. And this is a briefcase of all of our best calculators. And these are various different calculators or apps that we built, or just spreadsheets that we like to keep in one convenient place. And what you're looking for is a resource I built a couple of years ago called the Buyer to Seller Conversion calculator. And then you're just going to click open calculator. All right, excellent. So in order for you to do this, in order for you to edit this, and I'm going to move my face out of the way now. In order for you to edit and actually use this calculator, you're going to have to make a copy, right? So this is an edit, or this is a view only calculator. In order for you to use it, you're going to have to go to File, make a copy, name it whatever you want. It'll make a copy in your account, and then you're ready to go. All right. So this is a buyer to listing conversion calculator. And remember, all this data came from the latest profile of home buyers and sellers from the National Association of Realtors. I've linked to it here at the top of the calculator in case you want to reference these numbers. Just fact check me. Feel free to. But here's what we're looking at. And this is kind of a further breakdown, a more in-depth breakdown of the pie chart that I just showed you. So right here, this is your only input. You're going to put in how many leads, how many buyer leads you generated last month. And unfortunately, and this should be eye-opening for you, hopefully this is a moment of awakening for you, most realtors generated less than 10 leads in the last 30 days. Okay. And what that means is that it's going to be really hard for you to convert sellers from your buyers. And so if you're thinking, when I broke down the numbers, you're like, okay, Chris, I get what you're saying and I track with the numbers, but how come, if those numbers are true, how come I've never converted a single listing from a buyer ever, unless I got lucky and I just double-ended the deal? And the reason why is most realtors never generate enough buyer leads in any given month to actually have a high supply of potential seller leads. And so what I recommend is that you ratchet this number way up. 80 is kind of like our go-to number. The average agent that wants to, generate an income, a net income of somewhere between $150,000 and $250,000 annually, they need to generate somewhere around 80 buyer leads per month. And then, of course, we're going to convert a bunch of those into sellers. So here's what happens. If you plug in 80 buyer leads, we know that 16% of them are investors, roughly. Okay. So, subtract 13 off of that number. 13 of those people are going to be useless to us, unless you like working with investors. Not calling investors useless. 4% of them statistically are going to be searching for a vacation home, right? That may go up or down a little bit, like if you live in Sarasota, Florida, for example, or a big vacation market. Then that's, primary home. So 64 are what's remaining. 64 people are actually searching for a new primary home, which means they're going to be getting rid of their old home or their existing home whenever they make a purchase. Okay. Now, of this group of 64 leads, we know that 24% are going to be first-time home buyers. So we're going to subtract 15 off of that number. And we know that just about 24% of them, or 23.9% according to Redfin, are going to be relocation. So about 15 if we're just rounding. Okay. So we're subtracting 15 and 15, which leads 33 local sellers. Now, I don't know about you guys, but how many of you could get excited about having the names and phone numbers of 33 local sellers? I could, right? The key is, if you want the names and phone numbers of 33 local sellers, all you have to do is get the names and numbers of 33, or the names and numbers of 80 buyers, right? And what's going to be left is 33 local sellers, right? So that's cool, right? So we subtracted out the relocations. Obviously, you can't represent somebody who's moving from outside your state to inside. You could refer them, but you're not going to represent them. So you subtract out those, subtract out the first-time home buyers. And now we have 33 local sellers. We know that 45% of people are going to send you to voicemail. Many of those people won't call you back. Maybe a few of them will. That's okay. It leaves more than enough leads for us to work with. And we know that five people roughly, or 25% of those people, are going to tell you, no thanks, I'm not interested. And so what that leaves you is, it leaves you about 17% total based on this calculator. 17% of the original 80 buyer leads end up as CMA requests. And don't worry, I'm going to walk you through how I got there, how I got them to say yes to a CMA request in just a moment. But this is the calculator. So run the numbers. Okay. How many leads did you generate in the last 30 days? And for most agents, it's going to be somewhere between 3 and 8. Okay. And so if you just generated 5 buyer leads in the last month, you think, hey, that really ought to be enough buyer leads in order for me to get rich. Okay. Or for me to grow my business the way that I want. Okay. Here's how many CMA requests you're likely to get out of that. And that's if you're lucky. This is rounded. Okay. It's actually less than one. It's 0.9 CMA requests from 5 buyer leads. So how many buyer leads did you get? Plug it into the calculator. And then, suffice it to say, you should be generating more buyer leads than you are. And the easiest way to do that, do a quick ad for my company, is to use Pipeline Pro Tools. Pipeline Pro Tools is a complete marketing engine for realtors. The typical agent who's using Pro Tools is using organic marketing playbooks like I do and like my brother Levi does, and is generating 80 buyer leads per month, which is going to lead to 14 CMA requests. And I just want you to imagine if you're getting 14 solid CMA requests, meaning somebody who's in your local market who's going to be selling soon says, hey, Chris, what's my home worth? Where would you price it if we were going to list it for sale? If you were getting 14 CMA requests like that every single month, how many listings do you think you'd be taking? Right? Some of you are going to say 14. You're very confident. Some of you guys are going to say 10. Some are going to be like, oh, I'd take half, 7. Some are going to be very, very not confident. And they're going to say they're going to take 3 or 4 or 5. You know what no one's going to say? Nobody's going to say in that situation that they're going to take 0 listings. So it stands to reason if you want to take more listings, you just start with enough buyer leads. And this is going to change everything for you. So now that you know how the numbers break down, let's walk through how to do it in the next step. Now in lesson 2, I'm going to show you how to actually convert buyer leads into sellers. I think you guys get the framework, you get the philosophy. We know that buyers are selling. You know the math of it, but now I'm going to show you step by step my exact process for actually doing it. And in order to do that, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to take you to one of my favorite free apps. It's the simplest of all, is callster.io. And like all of our apps, you can either sign in if you already have a free Guerilla Realty account. If you don't, you can click create an account. Of course, I have an account. And so I'm just going to log in. It auto-logged me in. And what you're looking for is our seller conversion script. And this seller conversion script is being used currently by 3,922 individual agents across North America. And this thing just flat out works. And so you're going to click on it. It's going to open up a Google Doc that now belongs to you forever. So you can download and keep this forever. And I'm just going to walk you through how it works, right? So setting the stage, online customers are primarily early in the buying cycle, 3 to 6 months from closing. That is actually not true. And we have updated data on this from NAR that the average home search lasts no more than 70 days now. And so we need to update that, but 70 days is the time frame that you're looking for. So instead, the goals are to make the customer like you and to set up future calls like an automated search. Okay. So here's what we're going to do, right? I'm going to walk you through the script. It's very, very easy, but the whole point here is we want to offer them a bribe that they cannot say no to, right? An offer they can't refuse. And so we call this the irresistible bribe. So now that I set the stage, let's talk the script. So you're going to introduce yourself, hey, this is Chris with Guerilla Realty. The reason I'm calling is I saw you were checking out one of our listings online. I saw you were interested in 323 Whitney Drive, for example. And we always just do a follow-up. I want to take the pressure off here. We always do a follow-up and we just like to, did you find everything you need? And is there anything that we can help with? And then I'm going to pause, right? And this is where the buyer lead is typically going to put up, and you guys are going to already recognize this. They're going to put up what we call the insurmountable wall. And the insurmountable wall is they say, yep, I got everything I needed. Thanks. Right. So they're going to say, yep, I'm all set. And that is what we call the insurmountable wall. So they put up this wall and every one of you guys has hit this before. So you're calling a buyer lead and they'd say, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. Or, yep, I'm all set. Or I got everything I need. And they're just going to stop you right in your tracks. And if you're like me, originally I had no idea where to go from there. Anybody ever felt that way before? I know you can't answer. This isn't a two-way live conversation, but if you've ever felt that way before, you're not alone. That's how all of us feels. We hit that insurmountable wall and we have absolutely nowhere to go. Eventually, my brother Levi and I, we discovered that the only way to bust through that insurmountable wall is a tool that we call the irresistible bribe. And so I'm going to show you mine. And so I'm going to say, okay, no problem. By the way, before I let you go, I just had a question before I let you go. Whenever you eventually find the home that you're going to buy, will you be selling your current home or will you be keeping it? And this phrasing is very specific. Don't think that you can tweak my script and get the same results. Just use it. It works. I promise you're going to get an honest answer every time. And so will you be selling your current home or will you be keeping it? And remember, approximately 46% of the time, they're going to tell you, well, I'm a first-time home buyer. I'm moving out of mom's basement or whatever. Or they're going to tell you they're an investor, vacation home, something like that. But 54% of the time, they're going to be telling you, we're not rich, can't afford 2 mortgages. We just have to find a replacement home before we even think about selling. And that's the thing that realtors don't get is realtors always want to do it out of order. We want to put the for sale sign in the yard immediately while they're still searching for a replacement home. And, maybe this is just me, but most people don't want to be homeless. But realtors are like ready to throw the for sale sign. They're way more eager than the buyer themselves is. So it's all about the order that you do it in. But anyway, trying to find our dream home first. And you're going to get this about 55% of the time. Okay. And that's where we're going to hit them with our irresistible bribe. And someone say, oh, cool. Well, we have a free service that you might be interested in. It's a 50-point CMA. It's a bulletproof CMA. It's a 50-point in-depth analysis that'll tell you exactly what your home is worth if you were to sell it soon. And it's every bit as accurate as a professional appraisal. Only difference is appraisals cost you like $1,000 now, and they can take 2 to 3 weeks to come back. And we'll do this for free, and we'll also have it back to you within 24 hours. And the best part is you're not obligated to list with us or to pay us back anyway. We really just do this because we're passionate about helping people buy and sell here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Boom, that's my script. Would that be helpful to you, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer? Would that be helpful to know what your home would sell for when you get to that point? And 75% of the time, actually, I'm going to be honest with you, about 100% of the time for us, we've been doing this for a while, but 75%, even if you're new, even if you're bumbling through the script, they're going to say yes. Okay. And so now that you've got a yes, that is a CMA request. And so that's how we convert a buyer into a seller. Now, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but we have another video on our bulletproof CMA process. It is really hard to pitch your CMA process and make it sound awesome if you're not confident in it the way that we are our bulletproof CMA process. So you need a new CMA process. I recommend our bulletproof CMA process. It was pioneered by us. It's used across North America now. There's an app that will crunch all the numbers for you. It's free. It's incredible. And we have another YouTube video that'll walk you through. Just search bulletproof CMA on YouTube and it'll come right up. All right. So that takes us to lesson number 3. And in lesson number 3, I'm going to show you how to set the appointment. This is something that a lot of agents struggle with. So they're like, okay, Chris, I get the math. I can do the script. But once you've got that CMA request, I struggle with how to parlay it into a real listing appointment where I get to pitch my services to a potential seller. And so I'm just going to show you the very last step in that process. And it's just about setting the appointment so that you can go in and talk to the seller and they're open to hearing from you. So here's what we do. And I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to take you to my Bulletproof CMA app. Obviously, just like all of our other free apps, you can either sign in with an existing free Guerilla Realty account or create a new free Guerilla Realty account. I'm going to sign in since I already have an account. And I'm going to go into some of my sample CMAs. And this is a sample that I've done. And I'm just going to pull up the report. So when you get done with a Bulletproof CMA, and this video is not for showing you how to do a CMA. So if you want that, then you need to go look up our Bulletproof CMA video on YouTube. But we're just going to pull up the report. And when you get to the end of a Bulletproof CMA, this is the beautiful one-page report that it'll produce for you, and you can print it out. And by the way, this has default design, but you can actually customize the colors and the look and layout, and you can customize the logo. We already have like the top 11 franchises in the US preloaded in. So EXP, Keller Williams, Caldwell, et cetera. You can automatically plug those in. Otherwise, you can customize it so that all of your reports actually look like they were made by you. But this is the custom report that I'm going to get when I'm done with the CMA. And so, here's the address. It gives me an airtight, reasonable range of value. And again, I'd love to get into the specifics of why this is a superior CMA. process, why we call it the bulletproof CMA. But I'm not going to do that right now. Instead, I'm just going to show you how I set the appointment. So I print this out. Okay. I also print out all of the MLS data that I use to arrive at this point. So usually it's 4 or 5 pages of MLS data. And there's really nothing to printing out the MLS data. I don't actually need the MLS data, but the reason why I print it out is there's this briefcase psychology that when you show up with a stack of papers, it's highly credible. And if you guys don't like wasting paper, or you feel like it's not sustainable, or you're not a very good steward of the earth, if that's the case, there's always for every page that you print out, you could offset it with one of those greenhouse gas companies that allow you to offset your footprint. So, but I really recommend if you want to take more listings, print it out and then put the bulletproof CMA printout on top of that stack of pages, and it's going to look like this. And I'm going to show up to the to the owner's house, or actually I'm going to call them on the way typically. And I hope that they answer, but otherwise I might catch them off guard. But I'm going to call them. And when they answer, I'm going to say, hey, it's Chris Jones, Guerilla Realty. We spoke yesterday. We did a full CMA of your house. In fact, we're putting the finishing touches on it right now. We're almost done with it. The last step is that we have to stop by your property and just do, walk a quick circle around the property, make sure that there's nothing glaring that'll change the value of the home. So are you home right now so that I can do that without scaring you or the neighbors? And if they say no, they're not home, I'll say, well, look, I don't want to show up at the property unless you're home. So when do you get home today? And so they might say, 4:30 or 5 p.m. and say, okay, great. I'm going to turn around and I'll come back at 4:30. Right. And I set a time for myself to come back. Guess what? Boom. You just booked a listing appointment. How easy was that? Right. So I book a time, and now at 4:30, I show up and I knock on the door and I say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I was here. And, so you didn't think some creep was walking around your back door. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk a couple of circles around the house. And then when I'm done, will you have like 10 minutes? I really don't want to mess up your schedule. Will you have like 10 to 15 minutes for me to walk you through the CMA so that you know how to use this report that we made for you? Okay, great. And so then I'm going to walk around the property. I might take a few photos just for fun. I don't really need any of that data. The bulletproof CMA is going to get through everything that I need. And so then I'm going to come and I'm knock on the door again, and I'm going to say, hey, great. Let me walk you through this 10 to 15 minutes. Is your husband home? If he is, if both spouses are home, I'd love to present it to both of them. Otherwise, I just present it to one. And what we're going to do is we're going to let them know that, look, most realtors, when they do, a CMA or a price opinion, they use a maximum of 8 properties. We were actually able to find 76 total comps that we put into this, bulletproof CMA report. And here's what we have. So we were able to come up with an airtight, reasonable range of value that your home would sell for somewhere between $338,000 to $374,000. Now, obviously, that's quite a range, and I'm sure you're thinking, man, I'd really like to sell for $374,000. So let me walk you through how this works, and then I just show them, right? So I show, look, at the low end, what this means, according to supply and demand economics, is that at the low end, at this low price point, we could sell it very quickly by only showing it to a few buyers. All right. Then at the average price point, 356, we'd have to show it to an average number of buyers. We'd have to show it to a few more. And then, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I believe that you could fetch as much as $374,000 for this property. The price of homes is somewhat elastic. It's not like a commodity. And the only thing is you're going to have to show it to a lot of buyers in order to fetch a price like that. But it's definitely doable. And generally speaking, for most realtors, this equates to the elapse of time. So the longer your home sits on the market, the more people who are going to see it, and the easier it'll be to fetch a price like this. Okay. Now, good news is we do some specialty marketing that nobody else is doing that allows us to show it to a lot of buyers in a very quick or short time frame, so we can actually usually sell it at like the low end days on market, but at the high end price. And then, boom, I'm able to unpack and walk into my listing presentation, and this is how I do it. And then I'm going to hit them with a call to action at the end. But now I've set the appointment. We have another video. My brother Levi actually did it. So check our YouTube channel for the ultimate listing presentation or the 8% listing presentation. And that's our listing presentation. And we're able to go directly into that from that. But that's how you book the listing appointment. It's all, very, very assumption based. It's presumptuous, but it always gets me in the door. And it's low pressure. Like nobody's mad because I'm coming with a free gift. So hope that helps. Thanks for watching. I hope this gave you a clear, simple strategy to start turning buyer leads into legitimate listing opportunities. And remember, if you want the full training, the swipe file, and all the tools to run this playbook yourself, all you have to do is like this video, share it with a friend, and then comment shared below. And once you do that, I'll send you a private link with everything you need, scripts, follow-up messages, and a live tutorial to help you implement it. All 100% free. No course, no pitch, no hidden upsell, just a proven strategy to help you get more listings from the leads you already have. And if you want more videos like this, real strategies, no fluff, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got more step-by-step playbooks on the way, and you won't want to miss them. Look, we've doubled our real estate business 3 times since 2019. If you want the full breakdown, exact scripts, step-by-step processes, and our brand new tool, drop a comment below.
No gimmicks, no paywalls. We're sending it completely free because we know it works.
Just type "send it" in the comments and we'll get it to you ASAP.
And if this was helpful, stick with us. We're dropping more strategies twice a week. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next.